Well, as usual, I've had all sorts of interesting comments and questions on my channel, and I'm going to address 7 today, including one commenter who's quite upset with me, and another commenter who I'm upset with. Hello, I'm John Foster. I'm a medical doctor who does Social Security disability exams. And as usual, everything I say reflects my own opinions based on my own experience and study, and not the opinions of the Social Security Administration or any other medical body. Now, I recently did a video on being approved for Social Security disability and getting Medicare. And in that video, I said that normally Medicare begins 24 months after your first Social Security disability payment. And a person wrote that they had a serious brain cancer and were approved for disability. However, it took 2 years for them to be approved for Medicare, and they thought they were supposed to get Medicare immediately. And that's a good question. Unfortunately, the person was wrong. So there are conditions under the compassionate allowance or terminal illness cases for Social Security where disability approval is expedited. Those people go to the head of the line for evaluation and approval of their disability cases. And most of the situations that get expedited approval are situations for which there is no cure and will be fatal. However, Medicare approval is not expedited. It still takes 24 months from the first disability payment to get approved from Medicare. The only conditions where Medicare is approved rapidly are people with end-stage kidney failure and people with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And in my personal opinion, this is one of the Social Security rules that should be changed. What often happens is that a person develops an incurable cancer. They're going to die probably within a year, and they're admitted to hospice. They qualify for Social Security disability payments on an expedited basis, but they will not get Medicare for 24 months, which is longer than their lifespan. So these people often die waiting for Medicare to be approved. In my opinion, people who have terminal illnesses, people who are going to die from, say, incurable cancer, should get expedited Medicare just like they get expedited Social Security disability payments so they can pay for their health care at the end of their life. If a person is poor and has a terminal illness and is in hospice, all states will approve them for Medicaid. But Medicare, based on Social Security disability, will be delayed for 24 months. Now, the next commenter is typical of many comments I get, and it makes me frustrated. This person said that they knew 2 people who are collecting Social Security disability and are not really disabled. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If somebody is really cheating the system, they are stealing bread out of the mouths of the truly disabled, and they should be reported to the Office of the Inspector General. I'll leave a link to the office in the description to this video below. However, although I've had many people say that they know folks receiving disability who aren't really disabled, I've never ever had a single one of those people report back that they reported the people to the Office of the Inspector General. If you're too lazy to report a case of Social Security disability fraud, I don't want your comments on your channel. Go and watch something else. The next question I got is also typical of many of the questions that I get, and it seems frustrating to me to have to go through this again, but obviously people are watching or learning about my videos and not watching very many of them. The person said, "I have neuropathy. Can I get approved for disability?" This person is basing their claim on their diagnosis, and once again, most cases of disability are not approved on the diagnosis. They're approved based on how severely the diagnosis limits the ability to work. Let me talk a little bit about neuropathy. Most cases of neuropathy that I see are cases of diabetic peripheral neuropathy. In these folks, the nerves that go to their feet and legs slowly stop working. And later on, the nerves that go to their fingers and arms slowly stop working. Typically, this begins with numbness in the toes. Someone with mild numbness of their toes obviously isn't going to qualify for Social Security disability. This tends to spread to involve the entire foot and then the lower leg. Someone whose feet and lower legs are entirely numb is going to have difficulty with standing, walking, and balancing. And if it goes far enough that the fingers and hands go numb, they're going to have trouble with lifting, carrying, and handling objects. That's severe neuropathy, and I've seen folks like that for Social Security disability, and they probably will qualify because the condition has severely limited their work-related abilities. So once again, it's not your diagnosis that qualifies you for Social Security disability. It's how severely your medical problems limit your ability to work. The next commenter I felt kind of sorry for, and the person commented that they had bipolar illness and schizophrenia, two of what used to be called in psychiatry the major psychoses. And my advice for this person is to find a good, competent psychiatrist and have yourself properly diagnosed, because in my opinion, the combination of bipolar illness and schizophrenia in one person does not exist. The next question was one I also get frequently, which was, how long will it take for me to get a decision on my disability claim? And the answer is, it's frustratingly long. At this point of time, early 2025, the average time for a decision from the initial claim is 18 months. And that means that 50% or half of folks who apply will have to wait more than 18 months for a decision. I wish that could be speeded up, but I am not the Commissioner of Social Security and I am not in charge. The next question was a good one. It was a person who's receiving VA, Veterans Administration disability. And they said, is it worth applying for Social Security disability? And the answer is, it may well be. First off, receiving VA disability has no bearing on Social Security disability payments. If you qualify for Social Security disability, you will receive the same amount of money every month as someone who didn't have Veterans Administration disability. However, there are two important things to understand. The first is the VA provides partial disability benefits. If they determine that in their opinion you're 20% disabled, you'll get a 20% disability payment. Social Security does not provide partial disability. If they think that you're only partially disabled, they will pay you nothing. You have to be 100% disabled in Social Security's mind to qualify for disability. The second is the fact that you have been approved for VA disability will have no bearing on whether Social Security approves your disability or not. They are two entirely separate systems, and on Social Security's website they state clearly that approval of other disability, such as Veterans Administration or disability insurance provided by your job, or an individual disability policy that you bought on your own, will not affect their decision on whether they determine that you're disabled or not. The final comment was someone who is quite upset with me and doctors who do Social Security consultative examinations in general. And they said that an abnormal MRI is abnormal, period. And doctors like me shouldn't be saying that not everyone with an abnormal MRI is ill or injured. Well, they have a point, and I want to explain my point of view. It's often easy to tell if somebody's ill or injured. If somebody's fallen and hurt their leg, and you can see broken bone fragments sticking out through their skin, they're obviously injured. You don't need 4 years of medical school to make that determination. Likewise, if someone has a fever of 103, is short of breath, coughing up green phlegm with streaks of blood, and has blue lips from lack of oxygen, they're sick. They probably have pneumonia. It's obvious. But there are many situations where the difference between ill and normal and injured and normal is not so obvious. Let me give you a couple. The first is high blood pressure. It's been proven that the lower the blood pressure, as long as it's not making the person pass out, the longer they will live. So where do you set the cutoff between normal and high blood pressure that should be treated with medication? Well, that's bounced up and down through the years that I've been a doctor. And right now, it's actually a bit higher than it was 20 or 30 years ago. It's sort of an arbitrary determination. Likewise, there are certain changes with age that we accept as normal. For example, it's normal for someone who's 85 years old to have facial wrinkles. It's not normal if someone's 10 years old and facial wrinkles. We would suspect there's something wrong with them. And to add another complication, just because most people are a certain way doesn't mean that a different way is abnormal. For example, we don't consider people who are left-handed to have a neurological disease, even though only about 7 to 8% of the population is left-handed. All that being said, I want to describe an interesting study that was done, and I'll provide a link to it in the description to this video below. Doctors took 98 people who had no back trouble whatsoever, no back pain, no back stiffness, nothing. And they did MRIs of their lumbar spine and gave those MRIs to radiologists, x-ray specialists to interpret. Would you believe that the radiologists only said that 36%, less than half of those MRIs, were normal, and the rest were abnormal? Now, if someone's perfectly well, has no problems, and more than half of such people have a certain finding on their MRI, how can that finding be abnormal? In my opinion, it's not. And similarly, the older the group of folks, the more so-called abnormalities on their MRIs. When you get to folks who are in their 60s, who again have no back trouble whatsoever, you ask them how their back is, they say, oh, my back's great, I don't have any back problems. 80% of them will have MRIs of their low back that's read as abnormal. So I'm sticking to my guns. Not all MRIs that are read as abnormal mean that the person is sick or injured or disabled. Well, I hope this has been helpful. Please keep the comments and questions coming. I find them very interesting, and as always, remember, if it happens, it's possible.